Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Philadelphia. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Ben Stark. Round 14 coverage is just about underway. We have Brandon Pascal versus Hall of Famer and top 25 pro-ranked, number 25 actually, William Huey Jensen, who starts things off with a Loyal Pegasus. Now, does he need a 6-0 his draft portion here today to make top 8?
Yeah, he came into today at 7-2, I believe.
I think he did. You know, I bumped into him in the hallway and I said, "How you doing, Huey?" And he said, 4 down, 2 to go.
Yeah, and I saw his first draft deck, and it was pretty good.
Okay.
And, he 3-0'd. I saw this draft deck, and it's not very good. So I know he's got his work cut out for him here.
Okay, so he's won his first match, and he's got a really nice start here with Loyal Pegasus into Traveling Philosopher. But the question is, how does he back this up?
Yeah, that's really his deck's problem. He doesn't have that many ways to keep getting through, and he doesn't have the Wingsteed Riders, the creatures that really fight hard.
Okay.
He's got to really beat his opponent with Traveling Philosophers.
Okay, well, he made it into a super Traveling Philosopher thanks to Nyxborn Shieldmate, and that allowed it to attack past a Skirmisher. And here's the cards that Huey probably wanted for his deck, but his attack still seemed pretty good here, assuming he can dodge something like a Mortal's Ardor or a God's Willing.
Yeah. And we can see he has a Snarecaster in his hand.
Ah, so this will reveal if that is in fact the case, and it's not. So another 5 damage hits Brandon Pascal. He's down to 10.
Yeah.
So good start here for Huey.
Good start
Again,
for Huey.
You mentioned, though, it's hard for him to follow up. Also, we note that he missed a land drop a couple of times here.
Yeah, and he's going to have more because now he's facing
Wow.
a 5/5 Flying Vigilance.
And this thing is going to start taking chunks out of his life total while protecting Brandon Pascal's. Ooh. There is the possibility of a Triton Tactics if you're sitting in Brandon Pascal's seat.
Yeah, but not a very good one, right?
Not a very good one.
I don't think he's afraid of Triton Tactics. I think he was just debating whether he wants to send that Elite Skirmisher into Leon and Snarecaster or not.
Exactly.
It's kind of a 3-1 for a 3-2, and the Skirmisher has an ability.
Yeah, 3-1 for a 2-1, huh?
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, and it has a positive ability.
Sure. But he does actually decide to trade those 2 cards off. Huey says, sure, I'll take the trade.
Good trade for you, eh?
Ooh, that's a good one to draw, though. Without the land, it doesn't really matter. He finds Heliod's Emissary, and he attacks no block.
I mean, it's really hard to block there. Battle-Wise Valor, Ray of Dissolution.
Which actually is what he has here. That would have been savage.
Yeah.
So Ray of Dissolution is going to gain Huey some life back and take down Observant Alseid, leaving just a 3/3 flying Wingsteed Rider as he passes the turn back to Brandon Pascal. Let's see what he can do to reestablish position. Again, Huey's got a bunch of cards in hand, crimped on mana here. And it's a Ghostblade Eidolon that is going to be bestowed.
That's going to make that thing hit pretty hard.
Does hit hard. That's 8 damage that Huey takes. Half of his life total drops away. Is it 10?
10?
Sorry, it's 10, right. I forgot the +1/+1 from the Eidolon itself. So that actually puts Huey down to 5.
Yeah, but it's only one creature, and Huey has a flying jump blocker here, I think.
Does he?
Yeah, I think he drew a Cavalry Pegasus.
Okay.
So, I mean, he can swing back and, block with the Pegasus. So Brandon has to have another card to win this game. A Bounce Spell, a God's Willing. Actually, I don't know if a God's Willing works or doesn't work. Yeah, it works.
And he actually needs it right now, right? Because Huey can just attack with everything. All right, well, he's going to Abyss, and so that was Brandon Pascal making sure that Huey blocked, basically. And once he did, the game was over. So that was a tight one. And look at Huey shake his head like, wow.
Yeah, Huey can't believe he's winning with the cards that he had out.
It was funny because that was a mirror match, but if you looked at the card quality on one side versus the other, it wasn't really close.
Right. Brandon played all the cards you want. Wingsteed Rider, Observant Alseid. Huey played Traveling Philosopher, Loyal Pegasus. Not bad cards, but not good ones either.
Right. All right, let's peek in at our other feature match here. Is this Adam Jansen on the left? It always takes me a minute because I know how their hands, like if you're in there, I know it's you. Isn't that weird? Like, I don't have to see the faces anymore.
No, I mean,
but only from this angle.
I do so well in so many tournaments that you're just used to my hands and the way I shuffle. I mean,
is that what your theory is?
By now, you should know my hands. Come on.
It's true.
I'm obviously just kidding. I've just been extremely lucky this year.
Yeah, sure. Now you go from one extreme to the other. I'm sure the truth lies in the middle, as it usually does. Hard to say exactly what's happening in this game as far as life totals and stuff go, but we see that Cavalry Pegasus is pumped up pretty big. It's got an Ordeal and a Chosen by Heliod on it. It's already a 3-3.
Yeah, this is like the story of this format. Meanwhile, Adam's Laguna Band Elder has Stratus Walk and Nyxborn Triton on it.
Yeah, so we're basically doing the Voltron fight here. So that's Frank Scarron is at 16 and Adam's at 15. So the player on the right is Frank Scarron. And he just took a hit there.
Frank Scarron, the GP Charlotte champion, for those not familiar with him.
Now, this is, when I first read Ordeal of Heliod, well, the first part got me, I was pretty excited by that. But the whole gaining 10 life, I was like, oh, whatever. But it does pop up fairly frequently that you're in a race situation like this. And it actually, 10 is a very big number. Yeah.
I mean, life's not that valuable if it's a couple points usually. But once you start getting massive amounts like that, it dramatically alters the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's at least a couple of turns that's going to get added to the clock for Adam Jansen here. And meanwhile, that Pegasus is still beating down. It's a 4-6 right now in the air. That's pretty tough to deal with.
Is it the new Ajani we saw that gains 100 life?
Yes. It's 100 life.
I'm excited by that.
Somebody just mentioned the word Skullcrack to me, and I kind of shuddered. 103-point life swing.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
It's not bad.
So, I mean, from Adam's standpoint in this game, you can't race because your opponent just gained 10. So what you want to do is try and stabilize, try and create a scenario where you're dealing damage but not taking any, even if it's only a couple of points. I don't know that Adam's capable of doing that on this board, though.
I mean, it looks like he is stable right now, right? Like, that Elder can block the Pegasus.
Right. So
it's sketchy.
Well, so clearly he's not going to attack with the Elder.
Right.
Because he's not going to win the race. I don't know if he's got anything else.
He's decided to leave all of his mana untapped as well, which does make attacking, even with the trick, a pretty scary proposition, as there's a lot of different bounce spells, grip tides, and retraction helixes, and voyages ends, and all that kind of thing, plus any number of combat tricks that he can represent on his own. Here's an Area Worshippers. Fine.
It's a good card.
Yeah.
Just doesn't look that effective on the board at the moment.
No.
Actually, you know what? That Laguna Band and Elder can't block non-flyers. So the Area Worshippers can attack.
Oh, that's right. It can just send in. Yeah, it looks a lot better when you put it that way.
Yeah, I didn't realize that because of the Stratus Walk.
Right.
See if Adam can put anything else in play. With an Inspire creature like that, you can only take so many hits before you're really far out of the game. I mean, it's generating a 2/2 flyer every time it untaps.
Right.
A 2/2 flyer, I mean, that's pretty much a card right there.
That's a card.
Yeah. So how many cards are you going to draw on your opponent before your opponent's out of the game?
Right. And, of course, you still get your draw step. So it's like drawing and casting. Ooh. Celestial Archon is going to change that whole attack with the Area Worshippers thing. I don't know if Adam's in a position to actually be able to attack. I would assume not.
Do we know Adam's life total?
We knew it before, but I think he'd take a hit, and I don't know it now.
Yeah.
And just as importantly, Frank's life total should be quite high. I mean, he's above 20 here.
Yeah, it seems tough to be able to attack here.
But right now, in the fight of Voltrons, Adam has 2.
Yeah, and Adam's Voltrons are considerably bigger than Frank's. So let's say Adam plays like a medium-sized creature on his next turn. He could potentially attack with one of his 2 big creatures because it doesn't leave a good attack for Frank.
Right.
I mean, Frank would attack, deal, whatever, 4 damage, lose 2 guys. That's not really acceptable.
Right. So Frank's going to play Temple of Enlightenment and ship that card to the bottom off of the Scry ability. And what does he have, an Elder of his own? No, it's an Elite Skirmisher. That could get interesting.
It's definitely threatening. since Adam could go on the plan that we talked about of leaving one big guy back, the skirmisher's ability to tap it is very threatening.
Yes.
I think people as a whole tend to overvalue threatening, though. Like, when I'm in these kind of positions, I usually say to myself, you know what, this game is close. Was I really going to beat Tricks anyway? You know, I'm going to start, you know, trying to win this game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A good phrase that I was taught a long time ago when I was first learning how to play this game well was, you know, you play to win, not to not lose.
Right. That's a great way to look at it. And I think that's a trap that a lot of players fall into. The funny part about that whole line of thinking, too, is that if you do nothing, you often give your opponent the chance to actually draw the thing that you were scared of anyway.
Right, that he may not have had, or he just outdraws you in a different way.
Right. All right, BDM's out there. He's going to give us an update here momentarily.
Hey, guys. Got a couple just quick updates. A couple
Okay.
matches I'm keeping an eye on the floor. John Finkel's playing Carmen Barrasso. John's trying to get his umpteenth Grand Prix top 8 here, but he needs to win all his matches. His opponent took 3 extra turns against him, I think, with Metamai
What?
this game. And then, like, whenever John would try to muster a blocker, a Vortex Elemental would just, like, you know,
Gobble
suck
it
up
up.
a Leaf Crown Dryad. It was pretty gruesome game 1. So John's up against it there. If he loses, he's out of top 8 contention. And then Jamie Park is playing against Joe Demestrio.
Oh,
Joe
wow.
Demestrio needs to win out in order to have a shot at the top 16, which will qualify him for 2 more Pro Tours. But he's going to be coming back from an 0-1 hole against Jamie. Sea God's Revenge picked up his kind of had a ragtag band of 3 guys against a little bit of a superior army, and then he had to pick them all up, and
okay.
Jamie's up a game there. So
Okay.
Cool.
All right, back to our main feature match here. And Huey actually took a mulligan all the way down to 4 here. And it looks like Brandon Pascal's had a pretty reasonable start as well. Wingsteed Rider, Cavalry Pegasus, and an Omen Speaker on his board. I mean, not big hitters, but this turn could be huge for Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, if Brandon has anything,
Ooh, Siren of the Fanged Coast. That's a good one.
well, it's a great card.
Yeah.
One of the better blue cards in the set, maybe
Yeah.
second or third. At the moment, like it usually is, it's
a
not going to affect
4/4,
It's
yeah.
not going to affect the board this turn, but it's an air elemental.
Yeah. An Air Elemental is traditionally one of the best cards in Limited, you know, at least at the uncommon slot. A 4/4 flying for 5 is just fantastic. And here he comes into the red zone, able to crash safely past the Cavalry Pegasus with the Nyxborn Shield Mate on it. And there's Big Ben Benthic Giant comes down. We've seen a few of those around.
Yeah.
I don't play that card very often, but seems to have crept into some deck lists yesterday and sealed in a few into draft here today too.
One thing I've noticed is that Born of the Gods seems to offer less playables than Theros. So some of the cards that were just barely not going to make the main from Theros, like a Pharaoh's Warden and Benthic Giant, have been making the main in people's decks now.
Creeping in there.
Yeah.
Leon and Snarecaster on turn 6 here for Huey, who seems to be flooding a little bit as well. It just doesn't have a lot going on. He's going to start taking big chunks of damage here to the tune of up to 8. And
Yeah.
it looks like that's what he's taking here and dropping down to 4. It's hard to imagine a scenario where Huey can get out of this, and he doesn't find it here.
Yeah, and Huey's not big on concessions. And, I mean, he wasn't technically dead there, but even Huey scooped up his cards because, you know, when all your opponent's creatures are bigger than all of yours. And,
Right.
You know,
And you
there's
have
you
nothing
can do.
going on.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so back over to our secondary match here. So again, this is Adam Jansen versus Frank Scarron. And it looks like we have combat. Apparently the something targeted that skirmisher.
Looks like a God's Willing in the
If
graveyard.
God's willing, okay, yeah, he just pre-combat did that because the traveling philosopher that's wearing the Celestial Archon armor is tapped down.
And it
up
makes
there.
a lot of sense because, you know, the pro white allows it to attack too because all of Adam's guys are white.
Yeah.
I mean, not knowing the life totals, it's really hard to evaluate.
Yeah, we're just going to have to
plays.
watch and see. I mean, this could just be a lethal attack, right?
Right. And it looks like
And
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah. I know that I don't personally know Frank Scarron well, but I do know Chris Fennell well.
Uh-huh.
And he now works with Frank Scarron for Pro Tours.
Ah.
And he speaks very highly of his limited. Speaks very highly of his limited ability. And I know that's high praise because Chris Fennell is a fantastic limited player himself.
Sure. So Huey up against it here. And Brandon Pascal looking to defeat a Hall of Famer. I'm assuming that Brandon's also X2 and looking to keep his top 8 hopes alive.
Sure. And possibly a qualification for Brandon Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's qualified or not.
Huey is.
Yeah. Huey qualified for life.
You guys doing it the easy way?
Yeah.
Becoming one of the best players in the game over the course of like 15 years.
More like being fortunate enough to top 8 4 Pro Tours so that you get invited for the rest of your life.
Sure.
It's more dedication to the game. I mean, I know both Huey and I have played in like 40-something Pro Tours over a 15-year period.
Right. That takes a lot of dedication.
Yeah. I mean, I know when they invented the Hall of Fame, I was like super ecstatic. I thought like, you know, for people who have dedicated their whole life to this game, you know, to have this reward where, you know, even if you're no longer playing, when the Pro Tour is near you, you can come and compete.
Yes.
You know, I thought it was just excellent.
I think that's fantastic too. And it's also had an interesting side effect of creating a lot of cool discussion in the Magic community around that time too, about who to vote for, who to not. And I mean, you know, Magic players love talking about Magic players and Magic and all that, and it seems to be a good catalyst for that. All right, there's that Loyal Pegasus on turn 1 again for Huey here. Can William Jensen find it now? All right.
He has a good hand.
Now we're talking business here. And nothing for Brandon Pascal as of yet.
Yeah.
And in they come to the red zone. 4 damage is going to hit Brandon. And Huey is going to keep developing his board here. He decided to tap it down. Is that to play around something?
I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Because it's a May ability. You don't have to do it. Not excoriate, right? That does. And plus, he doesn't have 4 mana. I don't know.
I don't know if Huey's just trying to confuse his opponent or if there's actually a reason for that.
Yeah, I remember somebody did it, and then I thought, I can't think of a reason, and then I did.
Well,
I can't hear, though.
Excoriate and asphyxiate.
Yeah,
but
not here.
Not here, no.
Right. All right, here's a big play. And this is going to resolve? Nah, let's find out. It's on the stack right now. He gets a couple of triggers. He gets a +1/+1 counter and a scry, and there it is. And in they come to the red zone. Is Brandon Pascal? He's done nothing for the first 3 turns, and he does nothing at all for that whole stretch.
You know, he kept a pretty slow hand on the draw here. We're going to see. I mean, he's already at 8. It's going to be pretty tough for him.
It is. I mean, we noted that Huey's deck isn't particularly resilient, doesn't have a great long game, but it does seem to have, you know, kind of just the curve, right? I mean, this is the benefit of just, like, look, a Leonin Snarecaster is not a great Magic card.
Right.
But he's just playing stuff and attacking, and it looks like it might just be getting the job done here.
Right. He does have small creatures, so he can end a game if your opponent has a slow draw. He can punish a slow draw.
All right, here's a bit of defense here. A Coastline Chimera for Brandon Pascal says, I'm going to block something. This is a dangerous turn, though, for Brandon. I mean, it doesn't take a lot for Huey. He's slowly peeling his card, and I think it was Sudden Storm.
It was.
I don't think he has the mana.
No, he doesn't, but that's still an excellent draw because that means at some point his opponent's probably going to be within range to be Sudden Stormed out.
So does this mean that he just doesn't attack here and has to just wait?
I probably,
Send him in.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're dealing 5 damage. I think he might even have a Triton Tactics. Huey does. So, I mean, if I have a Triton Tactics and I'm William Jensen here, I'm just going to target the Battle-Wise Valor in whichever 2-1 he blocks.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not getting the tap effect, I mean, I'm growing my Battle-Wise Valor. I'm saving my Snarecaster.
Yeah.
I'm scrying to try and find the land for Sudden Storm.
And you're also, you know, because if the Snarecaster dies and Brandon has some way to, just to keep the Battle-Wise Hoplite at bay, that also takes care of the Pegasus, and all of a sudden Huey's board shrinks a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, now Brandon has to play a blocker, has to have 2 open for the Chimera, or usually 4 open, I guess, for the Chimera, but then, you know, it's going to die.
Right.
Basically, his back is completely to the wall.
Right, and Huey is peeling for a land here, although interestingly, Brandon plays nothing and says go. Is he just using the mana for the Chimera? There's a land for Huey Jensen. But Brandon has his own Sudden Storm. That's going to get dissolved.
And that's going to be the game.
And that's going to be the game. Huey wins to improve to 12-2. here in Philadelphia, hand on head. How did this happen? My deck isn't that great.
Yeah.
One more to go.
Yeah, I mean, I do tell people this all the time. People think you need to have the better cards to win, or that you need to have the most powerful deck or the best draft deck. That's not really, games are determined, that's not really how it works. Games are determined a lot more by hitting your curve, by playing a 2-drop and a 3-drop, by being able to cast your cards. You know, consistency wins a lot more games in Limited than in Power does.
Yes.
And when you look at a deck like Huey's, you know, the power level is low, but the consistency is there. His mana is completely functional. His curve is good.
Right.
So, you know, if his opponent has a slow draw, he can win. If his opponent gets a little flooded, he can win. If his opponent's missing a color, he can win. If his opponent gets a perfect draw, he's not going to win.
Right. But he's at least given himself a puncher's chance to fight.
I've 3-0'd a lot of pods with decks that looked real mediocre. They just had good mana and a good curve, and my opponents who had good decks didn't draw perfectly against me. And my opponents who had bad decks, I was able to punish their bad draws and their inconsistencies.
Okay, so back to Adam Jansen and Frank Scarron. Frank looks like he's got a Vanguard of Brimaz is doing a little work for him here. There's also an Airy Worshippers down there, but Wingsteed Rider hits a red zone, and it's going to be followed up by some 5-drop here. Wow, that is some 5-drop. Prognostic Sphinx there for Adam Jansen. Going to put a halt to the proceedings potentially for Frank.
And that guy is awesome.
Yes.
There are a lot of expensive creatures that you'll hear me badmouth a good bit because they just don't do quite enough. They sit in your hand, and then when you finally cast one for 6 or 7, they get bounced, and you're so far behind. But Prognostic Sphinx is only 5, and you can discard a card to make it hexproof, so it can't be bounced or killed, basically. Only tapped for 1 turn.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just an excellent bomb rare. That's exactly what I'm looking for out of my power cards.
Yeah, that hits the sweet spot for sure.
It has high toughness, so it's a good blocker the turn you play it.
Yep.
It doesn't die to removal. It only costs 5.
And by the way, Scry 3 happens, which is... you know, the cherry on this particular Sunday.
And it can take over the game within a couple of attacks.
Yeah. Yeah, really great card. Observant Alseid on the Vanguard of Brimaz yields yet another Cat Soldier with Vigilance. And looks like Frank's just shipping the team in here. Right now, Adam Jansen's tapped out.
Yeah, I feel like Frank doesn't really have any better options. Like, this attack might not be great for him, but his guys can't block the Wingsteed Rider or the Prognostic Sphinx.
Right.
So he's going to deal some damage.
So is the play to double block the Worshippers here?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what Adam will do. And Frank knew that was coming. You know, even though Worshippers for Snarecaster is not a good trade, you know, he's dealing 4 or 5 damage. I don't think he has better options.
Yeah. So 5 damage hits Adam Jansen, drops him down to 10.
There are times when you want to just wait rather than trade down, but not when your opponent has a Wingsteed and a Prognostic Sphinx that are going to take over the game.
Yeah, at least this way, Frank somewhat punishes Adam Jansen for attacking with Prognostic Sphinx.
Exactly. And then maybe Adam musters something that isn't that fantastic. Frank has a trick of some kind, like say Sudden Storm to tap them or a bounce spell, and then he's able to get in a bunch more damage and really threaten Adam's life total. Sitting back and watching Prognostic Sphinx attack and scry is not a way to win.
It's so miserable.
Yeah, it's not a way to win a game.
All right. Temple of Deceit for Adam Jansen. Taking a look at the scry. Still deciding, and he's going to push that one to the bottom. Adam is he's a land adjuster. He loves to see that. There you go. Thank you, Adam. Get those perfectly squared up. I think it helps him think.
I think it's the kind of thing people just do while they're thinking. You know, without, they're not thinking about that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. It's easy to look at that and say, like, why is he doing that? He should be playing, but he is. He's planning out his turn.
I mean, we've seen he's not the fastest player, but he's playing at a reasonable pace.
Right. And he's also attacking for 5 in the air here. He's got a Scry 3 on the stack. He had just pushed 1 to the bottom, so these are 3 fresh cards. I think he's got a Breaching Hippocamp in his hand.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's going to spring the Hippo trap on him here.
Once again, I don't know that Frank will have any better options than to just say, well, you got it, you got it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if he doesn't play anything here, it's pretty clearly telegraphed. You're probably not attacking, with both of those guys, and to take, 6 back, rather than leaving up, the Sphinx and stopping the whole attack, basically. I guess that's not necessarily true. I mean, because you're not worried about losing a 1-1. So let's say you leave up just a Sphinx, and let's say you don't have anything, right? Frank attacks with all 3 guys. You can either block the Vanguard and take 2, or you can block a 1-1, kill it, and take 5. So, yeah, maybe this doesn't broadcast it that clearly.
Okay.
But at the same time, Frank has to put Adam on something.
Right. I mean, I think the obvious one is Sudden Storm, but Frank can say go to attacks, and Adam says sure. Then that's out of the equation.
Right.
And then the list gets narrowed down significantly.
Right. I mean, Divine Verdict, you're not that scared of it because the outseed will just fall off. It'll basically just kill the Vanguard. Breaching Hippocamp, on the other hand, is going to be pretty good here.
Yeah, and that Breaching Hippocamp occupies that space that it doesn't see a lot of play, but it occasionally pops up, and it can be hard to read. Now, it actually is Divine Verdict, though, that Adam Jansen has here. I think he's actually got both. But
right. In the event that he has both, I don't know how much I love this play. The Hippocamp seems like it would do better. I mean, I guess he might be worried about some things.
All right, now, did he give that protection from white?
Well, it's got to be white.
So that's going to fall off,
Yeah.
and he's going to lose his Chosen, but he does get to keep his Vanguard of Brimaz and just sort of spread out his team. I wonder if that's maybe even just better for him in some ways.
Yeah, I really didn't like that Divine Verdict there, assuming he has the Hippocamp, which I think I saw. I'm not 100%.
Yeah. We'll double check
Right.
when we see him shuffle.
Yeah, I think I like the Hippocamp a lot more. I mean, it gives you 2 blockers. I mean, I know the Sphinx isn't eating the Vanguard. He could double block the Vanguard and trade the Hippocamp for it, or he could just eat a 1-1 with the Hippocamp and block the Sphinx on the Vanguard or the other 1-1. But Adam has enough life to do that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you eat a couple of guys there, and you still have the Divine Verdict for later, and Divine Verdict's the kind of trick you want to use last, I feel like,
Okay.
in this situation. I mean, every situation's different, so I shouldn't really say it like that. But in this situation, you get your Hippocamp out, you eat the 1-1s while you can, then you put Frank in a position where he needs to tap your guys, bounce your guys, enhance his guy to get through, and then you use your Verdict.
Right. So Frankson has a pretty nice board state here, but don't get fooled. That Observant Alseid is on its own. It's not. It looks like it might be on that Omen speaker, but it's not.
Yeah, that's actually directly on the Omen speaker, but
Yeah.
as you said, not on it.
Yeah, he should probably move that to the side. I think he's just trying to make space because he knows that our camera has a relatively narrow angle, but it's a little misleading perhaps.
How thoughtful and considerate.
It's really nice of him. Also, the judge probably just told him to do that. All right, Prowler's Helm. That's an interesting one, Ben. What do you make of Prowler's Helm? I don't see it very often, and
Not a
every time
fan.
I do, I'm like, I can't beat that card actually, because my decks do not. They're not planning around a Prowler's Helm ever, and I never play it myself.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I mean, I'm all about hitting my drops, having cards that are effective when I'm on my back foot and my opponent hit their drops.
Yeah,
It's just not my kind of card.
that's the test that it doesn't pass for me as well. What does this card do when I'm behind?
Yeah, that's what I frequently think about any card.
And this card does nothing.
It's why I don't like a lot of cards that a lot of people actually love, cards like Phoenix, the God.
Yeah.
Because even though it wins the game really quickly in a stalemate or when you're ahead, what does that card do when I'm behind?
So Wingseed Rider picks up a Ghostblade Eidolon, making it a lethal attack actually, and that's just going to end the game. So what a nice draw there for Adam Jansen to force a game 3 here.
Yeah. And pretty much regardless of what Adam chose on his turn, that card was going to end the game.
Yes.
I don't know if he had it or just drew it.
I don't know either. He might have needed a land for it.
If he did have it, it makes his Divine Verdict over Breaching Hippocamp make a little more sense.
Okay.
Because there's some chance the Prognostic Sphinx could die in combat, even maybe somehow blocking a 1-1,
Okay.
though unlikely, not impossible. Frank Scarron clearly could have 2 pump spells or something.
Sure.
Whereas it can't die in combat if it doesn't enter combat at all, if
Right.
you use the Verdict. So even though
And if all he needs to do is survive to the next turn.
Exactly. I mean, I guess he doesn't need the Sphinx anyway because he can lethal him with just the Wingsteed Rider. But I mean, if all he needs to do is survive till the next turn, and he doesn't want to risk losing creatures there, it makes that play make a little bit more sense, I think.
Okay.
Although I don't know. I don't know. My gut is to use the Hippocamp there first.
Okay.
But, you know, it's hard to explain because there's so many possible tricks and so many possible combinations of things that could happen from that point in the game. To say, like, which one is correct is very difficult.
Sure. All right, so we brought over another match as well that we're going to get, but we're going to finish up the match we were just watching, which is Frank Skarn versus Adam Jansen. They happen to be on the far table from where we're looking at right now. It's clearly Reed Duke there. Do you know his opponent's name? Do you know that guy?
I don't know him, but we have the deck list, so I'm looking. I think it's Adam Mancuso, it looks like. Maruso? Mancuso, that looks right. It could be either one of those.
I see him out at a lot of the GPs. He's got his tattooed arm there, and it stands out.
Yeah. Reed Duke's hair versus Adam Mancuso's tattoos. Who is going to be the victor?
We'll have to wait to find out.
Yeah.
But we will get that to you.
His deck looks good. I'm not a huge fan of tattoos, but I'm looking at his deck list, and he's got 2 Purphoros Emissary. He's got Magma Jet. He's got Hammer of Purphoros, Fanatic Amogus, and then he's got Arbor Colossus. I mean, this is a nice-looking deck he's got here.
We're going to watch Adam Jansen versus Frank Skarn. There we go. We'll pop back over. We'll pop over the Reed Duke and Adam Mancuso after this one's over if they're still running.
Oh, this is exciting. If the records are correct, Adam is on 1 loss and Frank is on 2.
Oh, really?
So it's an elimination match for Frank, but not for Adam.
Let's take a look. I've got this is after 13, right? So this is the right one.
Yeah. There's Frank and there's Adam up here.
Yeah,
with 1
there's
loss.
Adam right there with only 1 loss. Oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
So does that put Adam Jansen into winning territory here?
Yes.
If he's 13-1, he can draw?
Yes.
Okay.
I think almost certainly 1 loss, 1 draw will make top 8.
Okay.
I mean, you never know who you're going to get paired against in the last round because they only pair within the pod. So he may play somebody with 2 losses who can't draw.
Okay.
But even if he loses, that would still only put him to 2 losses, which means he would only miss if he has really bad tiebreakers.
Okay.
Which his tiebreakers aren't great. He is the lowest of the X ones.
Okay. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Definitely a really important match for both of them. Woohoo! Look at that.
Wow. Brimaz hits the table here. You know, the Cavalry Pegasus was an inauspicious start, and then Frank Skarn said, let's just up the game a little bit here and play the King.
And that's another one of those rares that I truly love in Limited.
I do too.
I'm not looking to go over the top with my rare. I'm looking for a card I can cast consistently, of not that much mana. It's tough to deal with. I mean, look at Brimaz. It's a 3/4 for 3, and it makes guys every time it attacks or blocks.
Yeah. Card's fantastic.
Now Adam is pressured on a whole nother level, because let's say even Adam can muster a 2/2 blocker here. What if Frank attacks? Any pump spell, any bounce spell, the game's pretty much over.
Yeah, it just ends,
on the 4th turn.
Right. Unbelievable.
Let's pretend that was a more traditional broken rare. It might cost 6 or 7. Frank could lose this game, 4 lands of play, 5 lands of play, never even able to cast it.
Yep.
Frank could lose this game to the 2-drop and 3-drop and 4-drop that Adam play. But with a 3-mana broken rare, the pressure's on Adam.
And you see the heat here. I mean, Adam Jansen just main phase, used his Voyages, and just to keep Brimaz from even getting to attack once. Like,
right.
He's at 19, and he just bounced his 3-drop because Brimaz just strikes fear in the heart of mortal men. I mean, this thing is, well, it's a beast.
Oh, Brimaz is excellent.
Yeah, and we're going to see it again. Adam Jansen only has 1 planes up. BDM, what's going on out there?
Hey
on
guys,
the
a couple
features?
bearer of some bad news for Finkel fans. He lost in Game 3. He won a convincing Game 2 with Thassa's Emissary, just doing everything Ben Stark said it does. And then Game 3, he kept a no forest hand on the draw with a Kior's Follower, and he didn't get there, and he lost. Joe Demestrio also lost, so his top 16 dream is over. But I'm happy to report Oliver Tomashko, 13-year-old Oliver Tomashko, X and 2, He's going to be fighting for top 8 next round.
Wow.
I think we're going to get him in the feature match area.
Does
Okay.
13 mean he was born after the year 2000?
Yeah, it does.
Please
Oh
don't talk to me
my
anymore about that. I don't want-
I've
no.
had about enough of your updates,
Yeah.
BDM. I'm older than you are, too. I mean, that's just brutal.
Yeah.
Also, Jackie Lee also eliminated from top 8 contention this round by Nick Henney.
Okay. Thanks, BDM. You'll be keeping us updated as what's going on the top tables. Meanwhile, of course, Brimaz hit the table again.
People born in the new millennium in the process of top 8ing a GP.
So I think what happened here is Adam Jansen represented Divine Verdict. Frank Scarron decided to play around it by not attacking, or only attacking with the Pegasus and just building out his board.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
I mean, we saw Divine Verdict in the previous game. It's not like he's, representing a spell he can't have.
Yeah, and whether or not Adam has the Verdict, I like to play because you can't let Brimaz start generating 1/1s.
Exactly.
And he had an instant creature to display into taunt.
Which, now that's the really interesting part, because the best part about that is when you have both, right?
Mhm.
When you're Adam Jansen and you're like, haha, I actually just had this Breaching Hippocamp, and then you also happen to have the Divine Verdict. Now, Prognostic Sphinx is going to hit the table here, and Adam Jansen's been able to use up all of his mana for the last 2 turns. He's trying to outclass Brimaz.
Not easy to do.
It's not easy to do, but he's got a Prognostic Sphinx that can at least block. He can double block on multiple levels here. This could get very interesting.
Yeah, you keep this fair because both players have their rare.
Mm-hmm.
The rares are about the same size.
One costs 3, one costs 5, but
Well,
yeah,
sure, but
which
I mean,
is funny. I mean,
the
they
Sphinx-
are about the same size.
Yeah, and I mean the Sphinx has the ability of gaining hexproof so that it can't die.
That's right.
I don't know if that's worth 2 extra mana, but it's still pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're Frank here, do you want to try and bluff something? Because it is a Prognostic Sphinx. You know that Adam's not going to just want to throw that away all willy-nilly.
No, but I mean, he only needs a combat trick. I mean, Brimaz basically plays as a 4/5 in combat, or can play as a 4/5 in combat. So here we go.
Still
3/4.
Right, it's still a 3/4 when you're fighting Brimaz.
Right. When you mean you're fighting the Sphinx?
No, I'm
'Cause, like-
saying like you're not concerned about the fact that there's another 1/1 also attacking.
Sure.
You're trying to kill Brimaz.
Right. So the deal is, though, is it Frank? The way that he's going to kill the Sphinx is not by targeting it, right? He's going to target his Brimaz if it gets blocked.
Sure. I mean, if I was Adam here, I
Uh-huh.
wouldn't be. I might just throw all my guys in front of Brimaz. I mean, I just really want to kill it.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, I guess God's willing will still save it.
Okay.
I'm not really sure. I mean,
It's a tough one.
yeah.
And you can see that Adam Jansen's
Yeah.
having a tough time deciding how to approach this.
I mean, there
as
really
well.
isn't much that gives +3 out of white, but there's a lot
No.
that gives 2.
Right.
So I mean, I guess 6 power on the Brimaz should be sufficient, but you don't need to put the Traveling Philosopher also. Like I think the most reasonable block here might be Sphinx and Hippo on Brimaz, Traveling Philosopher on the 1/1 token.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is interesting.
I mean, Adam may have completely different plans for this game
Right, based on his
based
hand.
on his hand, which I haven't seen, and I
Right.
really don't know what he's still holding.
Right.
I know that removing a Brimaz is really important. Maybe he figures he can just eat the 1/1s, take the 3, and start scrying.
Mm-hmm. He's actually taking 5 here, though.
Yeah, and the Area Worship is going to make flyers,
And
too.
is going to start making flyers,
Yeah.
and that's a big issue as well. Yeah, the problem for Adam is just that if Frank does have a trick of some sort, he just loses, 2 creatures to it.
Right, I mean, there's different kinds of tricks. Like, he couldn't really double block the Area Worshippers, because then if it got +2/+2, it would eat both guys.
Right.
Not with the Sphinx, but I'm saying if he had double blocked it with the non-Sphinxes.
Yeah, which is what he was lining up.
Right,
Mhm.
he would lose both of those creatures, so, like, that wasn't really acceptable.
Yeah, and the Worshipper stays alive.
Right, I kind of like the play, I think, of double blocking the Brimaz with the Prognostic Sphinx and the Hippocamp,
Mhm.
and then blocking, like, the 1/1 with the Philosopher or whatever.
Yeah.
Because then I feel like it's pretty hard to get blown out. If Frank has a pump spell, you still kill Brimaz and you lose your Sphinx, which is
Yeah.
you're
he's
fine
putting
with.
7 toughness on the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're putting 6 power on it, so it
Right.
still dies. It still kills if he has a pump spell. And if Frank has a bounce spell, you can't really bounce the Sphinx. You bounce the Hippocamp, but then the Sphinx doesn't die. The Sphinx and the Brimaz just bounce.
Right.
So, I mean, I think I kind of like that double block. Like, let's say Frank has God's Willing. Okay, so he gives it Pro Blue and he kills a Hippocamp that you don't really care about. He
Right.
doesn't kill the Sphinx.
Yeah, not a big deal.
The only way he can kill the Sphinx is with a pump spell, but a pump spell doesn't save the Brimaz.
Right. He needs a pump spell and a bounce spell to get what he wants done, and then
And then whatever.
he had a pump spell and a bounce spell.
and a Brimaz. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't beat everything.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that block is a good block if you're in defensive mode,
Mm-hmm.
but Adam may have a completely different plan for this game based on his hand.
Okay. Let's see what he's got coming up. I mean, he did potentially represent a Divine Verdict earlier. It could have just been that Hippocamp that he actually had. But that's something that Frank will have in mind as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's down to 1 card, so it seems unlikely that he has Divine Verdict.
I agree.
We can kind of see it, but not really well. It looks like it might be blue or an island. It doesn't look like a white card.
Okay. So he gets a Scry 2, 1 on top, 1 on bottom off of that Horizon Scholar. And he passes a turn back. Now we have a trigger on the stack from, oh, the Area Worshippers does not make a token though.
Yeah, but that's scary.
Frank did not want to.
I feel like
not want to send his mana to make a 2/2 flyer.
I feel like Adam is playing this game more to race, to just kill Frank in the air with flyers, while just like not taking too much damage if he can. And it is a race he can win, but not a race he can win if Frank really has bounce or tricks, I don't think.
Okay. Is this like another Ghostblade Eidolon line?
Yeah, that would make sense. I don't believe that's what Adam was holding, but he did just scry 2.
He did, and he put 1 on top. So.
Actually, he just scryed, what, 5? What did he do with the 3 from Sphinx?
Oh, I don't know, actually. That's a good point. He attacked first, and then he played the... He must have put him on the bottom at least 1, because he put 1 on top, 1 on top, 1 on bottom with Horizon Scholar. All right, Brimaz, Griffin, the team. All right, almost the team, not the Cavalry Pegasus, though. Of course, the cat's also attacking here.
Yeah. So, I mean, Frank representing a pump spell because he's sending a 2/3 into a 4/4. Obviously, this is the kind of spot where you're not like, oh, okay, I'll just block your 2/3 in my 4/4. Like, there's a lot of potential different blocks here for Adam.
Right.
And, you know, they accomplish different things. You definitely got to believe Frank has something.
Yeah, this is a really, really tough spot for Adam because he's got a lot of thinking to do about exactly how he wants to block.
Yeah, and you know, a good rule in Magic, once you can't beat something, you play like it doesn't exist. So Adam might be going in his head right now, well, Dauntless Onslaught, well, that's just too much. I can't beat that. But what about Battle-Wise Valor? Maybe I can play around that. What about a bounce spell? I can not definitely win, but I definitely can play around that and still be able to win the game. But I don't know. If I'm in Adam's position, I don't feel like I could really beat that much. That's why I like the block the previous turn.
Right. All right. Well, he decided to go for the Hippocamp and the Traveling Philosopher on Brimaz. And there it is, Dauntless Onslaught. You just mentioned it, and that is just a savage blowout here.
Yeah, and that's a card he really can't beat here from this position.
No.
But, you know, the block last turn, it wasn't that bad because, you know, if you just double block the Brimaz last turn with the Hippocamp and the Prognostic Sphinx, and you don't block the Philosopher, the Onslaught, I mean, what does it do? I mean, it lets you trade Onslaught and Brimaz for just Prognostic Sphinx.
Okay.
And a couple points of damage.
Right.
I mean, then you follow it up with the Horizon Scholar, and, you know, you have a stable board if Frank doesn't have any more Bouncer Pump.
And as it stands, though, Frank Scarron garners a 3-for-1 off of his Dauntless Onslaught. And Adam Jansen is left scrambling, trying to rebuild this board. He decides to play a Nyxborn Triton just for 3 mana and pass a turn back with 1 card in hand here.
Yeah.
But he's facing a very wide army here.
Yeah, and now what Frank's going to do is make a 2/2 flyer, cast something if he has it, and just turn his guys either this turn or next turn, you know? And this is basically insurmountable, barring, you know, Wrath of God type effects.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think that Adam could win this game playing it kind of the way he played it. I don't know his deck list, so it's possible that he played this amount that I'm not realizing or something. But I think that he could have made blocks that, you know, threaten the Brimaz pretty efficiently. So I'm not really sure why he didn't do that.
And Brimaz is still on the table there, doing work. Yeah, that Dauntless Onslaught was just nasty.
Yeah.
You know, if you're sitting in Adam's seat, that's the one card you really didn't want him to have. And
No. Once you went down the path Adam did, you couldn't beat Dauntless Onslaught. Like if you tag me into this game, and I'm Adam on the turn that Frank played the Dauntless Onslaught,
Yeah.
I would just pretend Dauntless Onslaught doesn't exist.
Right.
I don't think you can make a block where you're in a winning position against Dauntless Onslaught.
Right.
But I do think the turn before you let all these extra creatures get into play and the game get more out of hand, like I said, I think you could make a block that's good against Dauntless Onslaught because you don't have to block 2 different creatures that turn.
Right.
But maybe Frank has other tricks in hand. I mean, I haven't really seen Frank's hand. I don't think he has much left in there, but if it happens to be, you know, a good bounce spell, or if it's a God's Willing, you know,
Sure.
he might have been able to win this game anyway. But
Meanwhile, in comes the team.
yeah, but I think I like Adam's position if it's not. If he makes that play and then Frank's hand is just another creature, I think Adam's actually in a pretty good position in this game.
Okay. But he's not now, right?
No,
You know,
now.
fast forwarding to the
Yeah.
actual reality that we're in here is Adam Jansen's about to die.
Yeah, I think now Adam's pretty dead. Because, I mean, he's going to kill a couple guys, but the Worshipper's going to live, right? And he's going to take a bunch of damage.
I
The
think
Brimmis
is
isn't
this
dying.
lethal? Because I'm assuming that there's a bird token somewhere too, right?
I don't think it's lethal, but, like, the
it's
Brimmis
not
isn't
lethal.
dying.
Takes him to 1.
Yeah, but the Brimmis isn't dying. The Airy Worshippers isn't dying. So,
Yeah.
like, the same amount of creatures you're killing are just being remade on the board.
Right.
That's not a way to win a game. You know
No.
what I mean?
Nope. And it looks like Adam Jansen is going to fall to 12-2 without the help of, well, Fated Retribution's the only card I can think of, but he doesn't have it, and he extends the hand to Frank Scarron, who stays in contention.
Yeah, they both stay in contention.
At 11-2. That's right. They both in contention, though Adam Jansen got a little bit less in contention than he was before. Let's flash back over here to our main feature match table, which is Reed Duke versus Adam Mancuso. And wow, Adam has a pretty nice board here versus Reed. Anything with an Arbor Colossus on it, I'm pretty happy to see if I'm on that side of the table.
Yeah, Arbor Colossus is huge.
Yeah, it's just massive.
That's a
It's
card.
9/9 now.
You know, he sees a lot of constructed play. You know, you don't want to face him in booster draft.
No, you do not.
Another one of those very efficient broken rares.
The cool part about it, though, from a design standpoint, is that it is hard to cast, right? Triple green is no joke, and there are times when it doesn't come down for quite a few turns past when it could have, just because of the triple green.
That's fair, but I feel like, much like with the Centaur, the restrictive casting cost isn't that big of a deal because green tends to be a base color or your main color when you're green in this booster draft format. So generally you're playing 9 to 11 forests. You know, you're very rarely playing 7 forests in your deck.
That's true.
So I don't find them that hard to cast. I don't find the double green cards, the triple green cards that hard to cast.
Yeah. I mean, it is a 5-drop. Like, you just don't always have triple green, even if it's one of your base colors. He's like, look at the board now. He's only got 3 green mana sources. He's got, like, 9 mana on the table or something. I think that that Adam just showed Reed Duke the Bolt of Keranos, and Reed's like, cool, go, right? Like, you got to make him just cast it. I agree with that, but ultimately it is good enough. And Adam Mancuso is going to be 13-1, and let's look at his breakers here. Second from the bottom as far as the 36s go, but we're thinking that he's in anyway, right? Like, as long as he can get a draw.
Yeah, if he can get a draw, he will definitely make it. I don't think there's any way that there'll be so many X1-1 or better.